see. I knew it, but I'm gonna have it. So welcome again to ARK Developer Roundtable. It's October, so let's say the fall season of Developer Roundtable is starting. And today we have quite a few interesting topics. So we're gonna go through some of updates for the Tier 0 projects. And we'll have a brand new presentation of Tier 0 project, which is ARK Scooter, which looks really cool, guys. So I'm really happy to share it with you guys. Then we have a new presentation, AIP proposal from our delegate Mac, safer cloud storage with the ARK Covenants. And we will also have a short report related to the summer practical work we did with the local university here. And we're gonna also introduce John, so he will share his experiences, how he started to work with ARK, what issues he encountered, and how did we use that process to, let's say, to improve our developer tooling and make it easier for fresh developers to grow and to start developing solutions on top of ARK. So yeah, any comments, questions until now? Just jump in if you want. I mean, let's keep this as much interactive as possible, especially related to the technical part. I would like you to ask questions, to test, to think about the proposed solutions, maybe also share some of your own ideas. How do you think this would be implemented better? So the idea is to be also more technical on this side, and also to challenge the presenters to see the solution, let's say, from another perspective. So I'm gonna head it over to PJ. PJ, you're here, so he will present a new Tier 0 project, which is the ARK Scooters. So a new project gets the first slots for presentation. So ARK Scooters is about electric scooter rental solution, and that solution will use ARK bridge chains. So PJ, take it over.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot for inviting me here. And I'm just gonna share.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's see here. And shrink that. Okay, everyone can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Sounds good. So yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I'll just introduce myself. My name is Philip. You'll find me as PJ on Slack. I don't post very often, but I've been lurking since middle or early 2017. So I've definitely been following along and excited to be working on some things. So yeah, the idea of this Tier 0 project is to basically create a proof of concept of a bike or scooter sharing platform, and it will function, very similar to the scooter rental apps you see in most cities now. Initially, we will not be integrating directly inside of a scooter. However, when we're done, all electronics and control will be ready. So if we, as a follow-up project, if we decide that this would be useful for the team, we can definitely do that. And I think the real result is that this is going to be a really great example code of how to write custom transaction plugins, and also how to use the C++ SDK in the IoT devices. And so I'm also going to be working with another community member, Emzy. We've just sort of met on Slack. So I don't know how long he's been around, I think for quite a while. He's worked on a few other projects on his own. He did just a few months ago ARK Promo. It was sort of a point of sale loyalty program demo, and he was running a forging node on a Raspberry Pi. So that was kind of neat to see. And then we're also going to be working with Simon, the team member there. So he's kind of our technical coordinator, and I've been chatting with him for probably a year and a half or more, and he's been really great. And So I think the two of us are, I think, a really good fit for this project, just from our technical skill set. So MZ, he's going to be working on coding the custom transaction plugins, doing the bridge chain deployment, and writing the app for the for your phone. And I'm definitely I'm an electrical engineer and kind of a firmware developer, so I'm more of a low level, kind of a guy. So I'll be doing everything, kind of on the IoT side of things. And so the main components are basically, there'll be a app on your phone that'll be, like I said, just like the, the Lime Scooter apps. And we've got a custom bridge chain, and MZ launched that a couple days ago. So that's running. And so he'll be, all the communication between the IoT device and the app will be on the bridge chain. So this will be a very, there's no central server or anything like that running. And then the only other sort of side thing that we have that isn't used at all for any of the actual function of the rental is we're going to have a things board platform. And this is sort of a well-known kind of open source IoT sort of analytics dashboard tool. So that'll be just a neat tool that, we can stream real time, all of our sensor data. So the functions of the mobile app is initially, basically, it'll have a QR code scanner, so that when you walk up to the scooter, you'll scan the code so you can identify the device that you're at. And then all of the payments for the rental will occur in the app. And then when the rental starts, it will send a pickup transaction and payment directly to the device. And then when it's done, it'll display the stats. And I'm from a technical side, I don't know much about this, but he's going to be using Accelerator with JavaScript. And so our bridge chain name is called Radians, and these are how we've set it up with 53 delegates, and the Explorer is running there now. And so he's going to be using, for the communication on the node with the app, he'll be using Node.js, Express, and Socket Cluster. So we've kind of been working on, in the background, this project for a month or two, but actually this is our first official week on it. So we're kind of just getting going, but we're going to be, working on this very quickly. So I'm kind of hoping that, in 6 weeks or so, we'll have a good portion of this done. And so I've got a little kind of a rental sequence diagram that I drew up to sort of show the flow. Now this is, the exact custom transactions we're going to be designing in the next couple of weeks. So this is sort of just a preliminary. So what's first going to happen is when you start the app, the user will walk up to a scooter and he'll scan the QR code. And in the QR code will be encoded the scooter's wallet's public key, the current GPS, and sort of your rate, what's the price per minute. And then once that's scanned, the rider will select the amount of time that he wants to go, and then he'll send the payment. And then when he sends, so here's the details of the custom transaction. So he will, the payment will go directly to the scooter's address, and in it there'll also be a hash of likely the GPS, and then the amount of time that they want the rental to occur for. So then on the IoT device side, basically it's just, after it's displayed the QR code, it's going to just sit and wait to receive a rental start transaction. And then once that occurs, he'll just do some verification. He unlocks the scooter and records the start time, and then kind of will display a ride timer.
Mhm.
And then, of course, then everything's good to go. The rider will have his time, and then when the time runs out, basically the scooter will be disabled again. And then kind of a rental finish transaction will be posted and sent, which kind of gives a summary of all the aspects, the ending GPS location, and then in the app at the end, he'll receive that transaction and kind of can receive a summary of the rental, and then it'll be ready for another go. So here's a little kind of a block diagram of the IoT device and electronics. So kind of the shaded portion is the part that we'll be developing. And so the core of that is a ESP32 processor. And this is a 32-bit processor. And there'll be a GPS module. And there'll be a small little 2.4-inch color display. And then this processor also has Wi-Fi built in. So that'll be, we'll need a little hotspot there for connectivity. Of course, in the future, if you wanted to progress, we could have a cellular connection there as well. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of just took a little picture of the hardware for the guys that might be interested. On the left side here, this is the ESP, the processor. This is the GPS module here. This is the back side of the little screen. And then this is sort of, the screen just shows kind of my current kind of dev window. I've got a little display status on the bottom here of kind of all my networks when they're connected, the GPS, the number of satellites it's connected to, the speed, and that's sort of just what I've got so far. This is going to be developed in an Arduino environment, which is a great way for prototyping, that's for sure, with all the available libraries. And then I mentioned that there'll be a sort of an analytics dashboard, and this is, the data there is basically just to view. It doesn't have anything to do with sort of the operation of the rentals. And this Things board is a real nice little platform that's kind of well known in the industry. And so, I've sort of started hacking up a little bit of a display that, be able to track the location of it and your speed and battery and things like that. So that's sort of the summary of the project. Is there any questions?
Hey, PJ, it's Justin here. And yeah, I definitely got questions.
Sure.
Okay, so first off, just some comments. I think that it's extremely cool that MZ got on board just from your relationship with other people on Slack. Yeah. I think that that's definitely an indicator that as ARK ecosystem gets more popular, collaborations can happen easier and bigger things can happen. And I think that's awesome that occurred. So my first question is about the name. So the name of your chain and ticker is Radians. Did you come up with that because of the, the circular nature of the wheels involved with the devices, or how did you come up with the name?
Well, I think naming thing is the worst thing for tech guys. I don't know. All the tech projects I've ever had, that's always been the last thing we wanted to do. But Google the definition of radians. Well,
yeah,
it's the where do we got here? One radian is the angle subtended at the center of a circle by an arc that is equal in length to the radius of the circle. So the definition had the word ARK in it.
Aha. I like that. I like that. And I mean, I just like the fact that it's associated with circles, you know, so I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
There's not much to it. It kind of wanted sort of a mathematical name, and anyways, that's what we came up with. So, for better or for worse.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. So, my next question would be, do you envision that this proof of concept for this ARK Scooter project could be used as a model for other people to dive into during like hackathons and workshops or other educational experiences that the ARK team might do all around the world?
I think in my mind, that's probably the best use of this, at least initially. I mean, that was my hope, is that we can document it really well and encode it well and try to be a really good example and kind of a great starting point. I know for some other kind of concepts and things that I want to do, I'll be able to build on a lot of these pieces easily.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that's what I'm hoping. And maybe this project will progress into something different or more real or maybe just a marketing tool for you guys. But
Yeah,
anyways,
it very well may. It very well may. So if you don't already know, I live in Los Angeles and I don't have a car. So I use these scooter devices constantly. Like if they didn't exist, I would be in big trouble. So I definitely appreciate this use case being explored because it's something that I intimately understand and the value that it brings to me as just a person living their life. So my question is this: with the function of the scooter rental process that you described, I heard that you mentioned that you prepay for a specific amount of time, as opposed to the current systems, which are ongoing timers until you manually stop the rental. So, am I correct in describing your procedure as a prepay of time?
yes, that's correct. The other way, we might be able to easily add a sort of a refund feature to it as well. So basically, maybe your deposit is for so much amount of time, but if you were to cancel early, you'd get a refund.
Okay, so I wanted to mention that that's actually a pretty cool upgraded feature versus what I'm used to already, because as a user, it's like more annoying for me to have to kind of get out my phone at the end and like do stuff and like cancel stuff. Where in this case, I could prepay and like know, okay, well, this errand that I'm about to run is going to take approximately 20 minutes or so. So I'll throw 20 minutes on there. I ride it and then I just get off it and then it's like bye. So I really like that a lot, actually. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, no, and the refund feature actually would fit in really easy into our flow, and so that's actually, I didn't put it in our sequence here, but we actually sort of have that in our spec to have that feature. So you could have like a cancel button on.
And some people would like using that feature, and others might be like, whatever, never mind. I did it. It cost, $3 or $4 or whatever, and I'm done. And then that could be like extra revenue for the rental provider. So that's cool.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks very much. Yeah, that concludes all my questions. I think this is a great project. I think that the more we communicate what's going on with this project using our other channels, like, for example, the blog or some other things, I think it could get people really excited about what could be possible using ARK technology and how it integrates with our current lives. So thanks very much for working on this.
Yeah, and like I said, this is sort of our first official week, so we definitely can provide lots of status updates and things like that. I should mention one other feature that isn't shown here is the idea of having the device registration sequence prior to this, and you could then, once you have that, you can easily imagine a case where anybody could sort of register their own scooter into the system. Or of course, it could not be a scooter, it could be, some other shared device, right?
Sure.
And so, it didn't display it here, but to me, that's kind of the really interesting thing that I've been wanting to have is these device registrations and being able to, you know, find them and search for them and things like that.
Yeah. The path to a more complex system is pretty obvious in this case because you know, it's kind of already out there, but then you can also always be inspired to introduce some new feature that would get people interested and utilize ARK's new features to implement those new features. And then we can kind of tie that all together and then inspire other people in whatever use case they're working on to use that new ARK tech. So I like it.
Yeah. And the other thing I should mention is that, you know, with these custom transactions, the payment goes directly to the Scooters wallet, right?
Right.
And so of course there is a, you know, there'll be a fee, you know, that would go towards the network providers. But in the case of, you know, somebody registering their own device, you know, there's no middleman in this process, right? In order for the device to get paid.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. And then it could even be extended to, you know, multiple days of rental time if the two parties trust each other and some other things are going on. Then you could have this be like, you could rent my device for a certain amount of time, and there's like a deposit that could be given using time locks and then other things. And so, yeah, there's a lot that could be going on.
Yeah, that's right. And actually, you know, I've been chatting with Simon about, you know, maybe we'll make the wallet a multi-sig wallet. So we'll see how, yeah, that would be interesting as well, too.
All right. Well, thanks again. And I just finished watching the 6-hour Facebook deposition thing. So I'm going to say I yield my time.
Yeah, I had that in the background all day yesterday, too. That was kind of, parts of it were kind of funny.
Yeah, no doubt.
One question from me before you wrap up. So I was wondering if you just did this as like a project for fun and you're just going to stop here, or do you intend to take this further and move this into, like, let's say, a proper company, try to get these scooters out in real world?
At this point, there's no plan to sort of turn this into a real project. I mean, maybe there is after. I definitely in the future want to, you know, I can see how a lot of this concept could be turned into a real company. I don't know if the scooter application is it, but I think this proof of concept would. I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty nice demo. I think, right? So. Yeah. You know, it should be very functional or easily adapted to a lot of different, you know, to something else as well. So I'm kind of leaving it open. Like I said, there's zero plans on my side to turn this into a real company, but you know, that's the idea, I guess, of proof of concepts, right? Is to sort of, you know, demo the tech and get some interest and see what could be done, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and Matt,
that's cool.
That it was initially a tier 0, but I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that one of the pretty much it was heavily inspired by a lot of the projects that are going on, especially from people like PJ and MZ. So that's why we're really excited when those two step forward and showed interest in playing with this. And as he said, I mean, this can be applied to more than just scooters. I mean, when you really get down to it and you look at like the custom TXs and some of the logic that's being worked out behind it, I mean, it could put into all sorts of different things, like even supply chain management, you know, that. So I'm really excited to see what they do with it. They've already done a freaking phenomenal job with it. It's great. It's really impressive to see the stuff that they're working on. And I think everyone's going to be excited as we learn more and more about it.
Okay.
I've actually got a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
First of all, let's say thanks for coming on. It's really great to get an update on this project, and it's an incredibly interesting one. But if I understand this correctly, that the GPS coordinates of the scooter will be on chain at the start of the scooter's journey and at the end of the scooter's journey, and all other tracking data would be off chain.
So yes, basically the start and end would put the data on chain. Yes.
Okay, so my question is, could you, if somebody wanted to take this concept and expand on it, and can you envisage a scenario where somebody may want that tracking data on chain? And if so, would it be difficult for them to do?
You mean like sort of like more real-time updates, you mean?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of the idea of this, the analytics dashboard is that it'll be streaming, maybe every 10 seconds or something, off chain, all this. So of course, we could put that with more frequency on chain, certainly. Or the other concept, which I'll probably do on the off chain data, is I probably will sign the packets with your key. So at least it'll be, if it's off chain, it's verified as well.
Yeah.
But definitely, I mean, you could probably add some other custom transactions where maybe you could request the location,
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
And then you're not sort of putting too much data on chain.
Cool, that's great. That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, guys, any other questions? Looks like a very interesting project. I also like the way you envision the custom transactions and how you're going to use them on, let's say, on a separate bridge chain, which makes total sense. And I have to give it to you, like, this is one of the best tier 0 specification we had. So it really shows also the progress when we started, let's say, half a year ago with initial tier 0. And so this is the way new tier 0s will go. So like setting a standard for initial project specifications and how they have to be defined. So, that everybody's on the same page, and can't wait to see this thing working.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I think it will also hopefully open the door to other people, more easily suggesting ones for sure. And Simon's been really good at kind of guiding us.
Perfect.
I'm here for you.
Okay, let me grab my screen. Okay, thank you. That was ARK Scooter project, and now we have another tier 0 update, and this update is from Dated. We have a typo on the slides. We're gonna improve that, but actually we're gonna talk about the updates that were done during the plugin manager. So Dated, go ahead. You can grab your screen.
Yeah. So hi guys, it's Eddie. Before I start, I gotta say, awesome work on the ARK Scooter stuff. I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with next. It's really interesting, everything. So I almost feel ashamed to sort of give you this update now because it's very basic, so to speak. Yeah, what I did in the last 2 weeks was mainly some UI fixes and some UX improvements. So what we have now, for example, is that the search is functional, and you can search by the category as well, and it's all tied up now. What we also did, we ditched the install from file button. Okay. Merely a security for security reasons, because the team doesn't really want people to install zips that they fetch from somewhere without I don't know, other people knowing what's inside, or at least having at least an idea of what's inside. So stuff like zip bombs and all that stuff, you don't want to make it too easy to install.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we see here now, we have 2 types of plugins. The last one, this is a plugin that isn't installed, so it's just says install. The first one is a plugin that is installed, and these 3 buttons sort of symbolize the settings or the options you can access. And the second one is a plugin that is installed and has an update available. This is also symbolized by this button here that says which version is available. The next thing, we hooked up the report functionality. So if you click on the button, if you click on the button, it opens the ARK contact form with a bit of pre-filled stuff that puts in the plugin name and ID, and you sort of can communicate your issues. The permissions modal was adjusted and refined a bit. For installed plugins, it just displays the permissions. For non-installed plugins, you can directly download the plugin. Yeah, we can do it now. This modal was a bit refined, and yeah, as you can see, now it's installed. It reloads directly, so you don't have to reload the wallet like you had to use in the past. And the next thing I finished is the update functionality. So we can see here now we have the Dark Contrast theme plugin at version 0.01. And just to show you, if you don't know this plugin, it puts other themes in here. And the standard sort of theme this plugin provides is the Dark Contrast theme. Just to show you guys how the updating is done, I added the Ultra Dark Contrast theme. So if you now click on update, it shows you the permissions of the new version. This could be redefined to show you, I don't know, the change log of permissions. So it shows you which permissions you already allowed, which ones are new, and that kind of stuff. So if you download this, it says update now instead of download now, instead of install now. Give me a second. It hangs now. Great. Okay. Okay. We see now it's installed. The update icon is gone. It says 0.1.0. So it's already reloaded this plugin, but it doesn't enable it by default. So if you update a plugin, it disables it, and you will have to re-enable it. And if we go back in the settings, you see that the second theme that I added is gone now. So this shows you that all the files, all the plugin itself has been completely reloaded, and you don't have to perform any extra action to actually load the plugin. Yeah, and that's basically my update.
Okay.
No, okay, we have to install from URL mode.
That's GitHub, yeah.
Yeah, right now you have to. It only works with the zip file you can fetch from GitHub. So what it does is, okay, you need to add a URL. It needs to be a GitHub URL, and it must point to a zip archive. So, for example, we have this additional avatars zip file. And you confirm, it shows you the permissions, and you can download, you can install, and likewise, it's here. So yeah, that's my update.
Really nice. I have one question.
Yeah.
So for the future, do you think it's like, what's the plan? Like, do you want to have these plugins be hosted on GitHub, or are you guys thinking something like you host these plugins on the blockchain itself and they are downloaded for the users?
Right now, so all these plugins, except for this one, they are published on npm. So the plugins, when they're not installed, okay, let me remove one. it still shows it for you. And that's because they are fetched from npm. You can sort of reload the repository. It does that automatically once per day. And so if you just publish your plugin with certain keywords, I had them in the slides in the last roundtable, and they're on GitHub also. The plugin is able, the wallet is able to discover these plugins and just present them to you. But putting them in the blockchain would be a nice addition, I gotta say. On the back end, you sort of have a modular system, so the adapter from where it fetches the plugins could be easily exchanged also. So right now you have an npm adapter. You could make a blockchain adapter that fetches plugins from blockchain.
Yeah. Also, I think it's much better. For example, if you push something on a blockchain, you have the guarantee that it won't change. But in an npm repository, maybe something happens, they get hacked or something, and it changes on you.
Yeah, we had some discussions related to this, especially like storing bigger files like zip files on the chain, if it makes sense or if it doesn't make sense, or how do we store, let's say, do we just hash the versions and we store the hashes? So there are maybe some ideas just for you to think, and some feedback from your side. Essentially, I think storing bigger stuff on chain makes no sense. We should just somehow, store the hashes or make standard interfaces for GitHub and npms and these modules, and then try to minimize it via some kind of hashing protocol. And in this way, you could also update plugins, because there are also new transaction types coming related to public to plugins that will be like, registration of a plugin, update of a plugin, and there you could just define the source, which could be GitHub, npm, and additional some kind of security which should correlate back to hash, so that somebody didn't change the source code, which is very dangerous in the end. But this is something that is still in specifications. So just some kind of feedback from your side if you have any thought on this.
Yeah, I think IPFS transactions, like you're already adding them, so it makes sense to have that. But one thing you might need to consider is, how do you make sure that somebody is hosting that IPFS file?
Yeah, exactly. So that should be at least the hash of the whole content should be on chain. That's for sure. Yeah, you have to have some proof of trust that is on chain, and you would have to validate against that proof of trust. And also in the currently published roadmap, we updated there was some discussions about the beta marketplace coming. So, and some of these plugins will be actually validated and vetted by us running inside the marketplace. So this will be also, let's say, additional point of security, which will not be completely, let's say, decentralized, but at least for some critical plugins, you would at least know from where you're coming, and that the team or the project publishing the new functionalities was actually vetted by ARK, is part of the Powered by ARK program, so it can be trusted in a way.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Okay, guys, do you have any other questions for Eddie and the plugin manager? It looks really cool, so I'm looking forward to it. So it's really nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I definitely agree that it looks really cool, and I love the clean look. I've always been a fan of Dated's approach to clean design and functionality that just works. And I remember last year I put in a couple GitHub issues that I was hoping that somebody would just kind of grab and work on, and Dated was like, yeah, that's a great idea, and implemented some portions of those GitHub issues. And so like I will always remember that, and that was awesome. And I'm really happy that you're here as a part of the ARK community and working on ARK stuff and mashing on GitHub, and it's just like fantastic. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so I have a question. So with the plugin manager dashboard here, I noticed that there's a space for an icon, but right now it's an ident icon. So is there a way for the plugin destinations to be able to like have a custom icon so that when you grab a plugin, it'll show a custom icon?
Yeah, we are still figuring out how we want to enforce this. There are multiple ways, essentially, how you could provide an icon. And the two ways we are thinking about is by either putting the sort of a logo PNG in the repository or package itself, or you put a URL in the package JSON, so it fetches the URL. Yeah, first what you would have to do then is once you have the image, you have to run some kind of porn filter on it or something else, so that people don't get some nasty pictures in their wallet if they don't want to see them.
Right, exactly. Okay, and then that's cool. And then I have one last question that might be more for Chris on this plugin manager situation, but do you envision a service that could be offered by ARK.io to validate plugins and charge a fee for that so that it can become verified and added to ARK's GitHub system?
Well, essentially, I'm more of a technical guy, but it goes in line with the ARK marketplace. So so if you look at the newer transaction types, which are actually business registration, breach chain registration, and the subtypes that are common like plugin registration, application registration. So and if you pack this into a box, you know, everything goes under the Powered by ARK program. So everybody that wants to be, let's say, vetted, have a, let's say, trusted mark on their business blockchain plugins, he would have to go through our Powered by ARK program, which is actually Sam can tell us some more things about it. But regarding business-wise, let's see. You know, it's we are also testing the market. There's a lot of potential because there are a lot of. If you look at, there's tons of solutions on GitHub. They are spread around. They're hard to find. There are a lot of cool projects, and if you bring this under one hood, like marketplace, and have this available for the whole ecosystem, so for the whole different breach chains that will be joining us, so this would make some kind of sense. But we would have to split the licensing model, because, you know, if you're targeting open source, I think, and I believe it should be always MIT and free, and then if you go down the line of some businesses, it's actually up to the plugin developers or registered businesses how they want to share and how they want to license their plugins or applications. So essentially, a plugin coming into a wallet, giving some specific functionality could actually require for you to have some kind of license. But at least for now, we do not plan to provide services. But if somebody wants to implement them, that can be easily packed inside the plugin. And then it's about the plugin developer and the plugin user, and we are just providing a platform for them to connect for the marketplace, for the business and breach chain transaction type. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, and thank you, Dated.
Hey, I had a question, if we have a couple minutes. Is it possible to check the download of the plugin or updates hash from an independent source of the download source, just as a cross check to make sure the download source hasn't been corrupted or changed?
Not right now.
Yeah, what we discussed maybe a few moments earlier, that was kind of the idea, you know, when you issue a plugin registration transaction, when you publish your plugin on chain, you would publish, let's say, the hash. And this hash has nothing to do with the download location. So when you would download a zip file, you would then, in essence, calculate a hash of your own and compare the two hashes. So that's one of the ideas we have. So this is, but the initial hash, initial plugin update or registration should be done by a plugin author and should be on chain. And then we have one independent hash on chain and another calculated by local user or automatically calculated by wallet if it's a wallet plugin. So that then gives us a comparison point.
Okay, so the actual hash of the file will be stored on chain. So
that's the idea for now, but yeah, there are a few other options also lying around. So I guess it will also evolve. It's not related to different package managers and version updates and so on. So, but yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks again, Eddie. Really nice to have you here. So I guess we can move forward to Mac. He will present a new AIP, ARK Covenants. So I see, Mac, while your question was related to storage. So go ahead. The screen is yours. We are really curious about this new AIP. Sounds really cool. So can't wait to see your presentation. Okay, you have the screen. You're still muted.
I forgot to push the button.
Yeah, now we're here. Perfect.
Okay, so basically this is trying to improve how cold storage is done. And let's go through it, and I'll try to explain, not in too much technical details. I'm not going to explain how the transactions themselves work. If you want to see that, just go to the AIP link and look at them yourself. But I'm just going to explain the basic game theory behind it and like why this makes sense. Let me just change something here. Okay, this should work now. Okay, so basically, first of all, I'm going to introduce this, then I'm going to explain how physical security is different from digital security. Then what's the incentive for attackers and why do they attack these, let's say, crypto holders? Then how do we fix this issue via covenants? And then after fixing this issue, what does the incentive become? Do they still have an incentive to attack? And finally, this can also be used to do non-custodial inheritance transfer. So when we go through this, after that, there will be a questions section. So if you have any questions, just leave it for then. So basically, cryptocurrency adoption is expected to increase because this is a very revolutionary technology and more people will be joining us later on. And we expect that the prices will also increase. So the early adopters and the companies who are here, they often will end up holding large amounts of crypto. And due to that, they will become large, like prime targets for hackers and social engineering attacks. And all it takes to lose everything, all it takes to lose all of your crypto is if you reveal the passphrase even once. And this is relatively easy to do. So we need to find a better way to do secure cryptocurrency storage. So physical security, we already kind of understand. We have been doing it for millions of years in the form of mammals. So you can see a picture of an animal that's basically hiding the nuts. It's a squirrel hiding its nuts. So you do it either by hiding the asset, or in the let's say human form, you can do it by having a claim that's enforced by society. And this claim basically assumes that the society is functional, there is no corruption, and the people know and trust you. So this is only useful for kind of smaller groups of people, but as the groups of people get larger and anonymization happens, this kind of starts breaking down. Securing digital assets, on the other hand, is fairly new. We haven't developed the intuition for it yet. We are not able to remember long numbers or long strings of numbers, and therefore we rely on writing down these passphrases. And even the hardware wallets that we use, we kind of pawn them off as being more secure, but even they need a seed, and you need to write that down, write that seed down somewhere. Therefore, there is always a passphrase that you have stored somewhere that a hacker can get to, and if the hacker gets to this passphrase, then funds are not safe. So what are the incentives for attackers? Like, what's the game theory behind this? So from an attacker's perspective, there is some effort required to orchestrate the attack. Most of the attempts they will do will fail. Some attempts will succeed, and the successful attempts they have will be profitable for them. So what they can do is they can only choose the like the highest crypto holders, so the ones who have the most amount, and if they choose the right people, they will be profitable. So the bottom line for them is that it's always possible to find targets because somebody would have a lot of crypto, and if they can find the right targets, then they are always profitable. So they just need to be persistent, and they need to have a lack of moral values. That much is obvious. So let's see how we can solve this issue with covenants. So this Bitcoin covenants idea was introduced by Moser et al. You might know about Emin Gunsirer. He was one of the co-authors on this paper. This is basically, this idea is not completely new. It's based on some historical, let's say, traditions. So if you read history, there used to be these covenants, and the goal of them was like, okay, how do we make sure that people don't become competitive or don't antagonize each other? So for example, to assure a safety of a young boy going on a journey, the village might put a covenant between him and the fellow travelers, saying to all of the fellow travelers that don't you dare come back without him. So that basically ensured that they will protect the boy. And similarly, Roman legion soldiers returning to their village alone without the rest of the soldiers would be labeled as cowards and killed. So basically now they have an incentive that even if they are scared during battle, they have to fight. They can't just go back. In the context of crypto, what this ends up being is that it's kind of like I'm prepared to burn my money just so that the hacker can't have it. So after this, I should also explain that how this is done. So for example, let's suppose after a hack has occurred, you have lost your private key. What would happen is you would have a second private key, which would be paired to a public key that's called a poison key. And when the network detects that a poison key has been used on the address, it will basically burn all the unconfirmed transactions. And because these covenant addresses are only allowed to use like these hash time locked transactions, and you can set, for example, a time of 3 days to confirm a transaction using these HTLCs, you will basically burn anything that was sent out in the last 3 days. So this is kind of your mechanism to burn all the bridges and basically say, okay, I know I've been hacked. Somebody took the money away from me. So just to make sure that like the rest of the money is secure or the rest of my accounts are secure, just to make sure that the hacker can't have it, I'm gonna burn this amount. So after you do that, what do the incentives for the hacker become? So from the attacker's perspective, there is still some effort required to orchestrate the attack. Most attempts will still fail, some attempts will still succeed, but the successful attempt that they have will not be profitable anymore. They don't get anything from it because you burned the crypto that they were getting. And because they are not profitable, like there is no profit for them in attacking a covenant. And the bottom line for them becomes, if this is widespread enough, if a lot of people are using it, then it's very difficult to find good targets for them. And if so many people are using it and they are actually burning the crypto that, for example, they managed to get, then it's never going to be profitable for them. So this kind of becomes like a fool's game, a fool's errand. So they're not going to spend their time doing this. So there is no point in attacking covenant addresses anymore. And this basically, the game theory changes so that over time, this phenomena of attacking high net worth individual kind of disappears, at least in the digital realm. So bonus, you can something else you can also do with it is non-custodial inheritance transfer. So cold storage is usually accessed rarely. It's tried like people try to keep it hidden, and it's very easy to lose these keys. Or if something unfortunate happens, then those funds are locked in that account. Nobody can access them. But with covenants, after X amount of time, let's say maybe 6 months, if there's no outgoing activity, then you can set it up so that it transfers all the funds to a list of specified wallets. And you can also specify the weights that these funds should be split. So you can actually write a will in this and do inheritance using this if you want. So that's all for how it works and what it does. If you have any questions, let me know.
Hey, Mac, yeah, I got one. Great AIP situation and great new feature for common users, especially since ARK is so poised on keeping things very simple for regular people. So this definitely makes sense to wrap your mind around and dive deeper into and present here. So thanks for presenting this. My question is Bitcoin covenants. So it stemmed from the Bitcoin covenant concept. Are they active now, like in the Bitcoin network, or is it still just a concept?
Okay, so the way Bitcoin covenants were written, they are using Bitcoin script. And so basically you can create like any address, you can give it that script and it will run this for you.
Okay.
So they kind of exist already, but it's up to you. You can deploy them.
Okay, got it. So I really liked the feature of if no outgoing transactions for X time, then move the funds to some other address. I mean, I know that when I have a lot of conversations with like my friends and family or random people, they always ask about the, you know, what if something happens to you, like will the funds be lost forever and no one can get them? And unless you're using like a third-party custodial service like, you know, Bitcoin IRA or something like that, then it's not really a thing. So to implement this on ARK would really provide a clear answer for those types of questions when asked about ARK. So I like it.
Yeah, and it's also easy to use. You don't need to do any kind of multi-signature or like give 3 keys to these people and then 1 to your lawyer or something. It's very easy.
Nice.
So from your concept point of view and knowing our 2.6 custom transactions, which can now be built very easily like a distributed application, and by looking at your specification, this comes down to, let's say, one transaction type. How complex do you see the implementation?
The implementation itself shouldn't be very complex. It's kind of like you already have a second signature implemented, yeah. So you need to just kind of modify the logic for that. So you have 2 pub keys associated with the account, and you just make a transaction using the first pub key, and you put this data in there, and you register the second public key using this, so the poison key. And anytime a transaction is detected from the poison key, basically it's stored in the blockchain, and any unconfirmed transaction that are pending, they are basically destroyed. So I don't think it's that difficult or something. It should be relatively straightforward. There are no like tricky things here.
Yeah, I agree. So it's like a transfer with additional, let's say, pre-validation and post-apply logic, the way I see it, in relation to the GTI.
Yeah, even like you already kind of have STLCs with the 2.6 thing, 2.6 update, and so even this deadman trigger, like you can handle this somehow in the similar to how you handle the STLC logic. Yeah, so you must have some database entry where it says, okay, you have to check every few blocks if the time limit has triggered or not.
Exactly, basically based on each block or each round, or it can actually be automatically triggered. Awesome. Do you plan on implementing this as a proof of concept, as a plugin, probably?
I'm not sure. I want to. I think I made like a delegate update recently. I want to I want to research a bit further Avalanche and all of these other new exciting fancy technologies, because I really see that if we if we don't jump on these fast enough, we might lose our edge. And I think this is important that we look into these and try to figure out, okay, which one of these technologies is going to be more popular. So one thing I should mention is just recently, maybe you guys know about Eva Labs. It's run by Amin Gunsirer, who is one of the authors of this original paper. So let me just open the paper here as well. So this guy, basically, he's the founder and he's running the Eva Labs project, and they are currently doing an implementation of Avalanche. And they showed off in one of the presentations that they did a few months back, and their network is able to achieve like 5,000 TPS on a globally distributed and decentralized network. So if that kind of if that kind of transaction throughput is possible, then we really want to have that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would try to focus my delegate services on that for the next few months, and let's see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, this goes also, very interesting, and this goes in line with the let's say, the generic consensus model that will be coming with 3.0. Because on our roadmap we are also looking into improving the DPoS and going more in line with the Tendermint because targeting finality, pre-voting, and other stuff that makes it more stable. So if we I would like for us to cooperate much more if you're going to build or just try to implement a proof of concept, so we can see which features of the core we should expose, so that the generic model would be as generic as possible, so that we can pull and push any kind of consensus on top of it. So that would be very interesting. Yeah.
Do you mean for Avalanche?
Yes, or any other protocol.
Okay, I can discuss this with you because I've been thinking about this a bit, how to do this. So there are a few options available to us.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen then.
Okay.
And you should have the screen now. That's all from me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mike. Oh, Mike has a question. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah.
What's the advantage of having the poison pill, which burns everything, instead of just having a second key that reverses the transaction?
Yeah, so you could kind of do that, but the problem then is you have just passed the buck to another key, and the hackers will try to target that one instead. So like in a rugby game or in a football game, they whoever has the ball, they get targeted. So it's the same situation. So it doesn't solve the game theory here. But if you have the key, the final say, if the final say is that you have the power to burn, and after that there is no rescue, then that kind of solves that.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks again. Great presentation, and I'm really looking forward to next steps and exploring the improvement of consensus. And the last part of this presentation is actually a summary of something we were part during the last summer, so which was the blockchain summer school. And we also have Jean here, who will be jumping on and explaining his experiences. So the initial goal for being ARK being part of such a project and working with university was actually to assess, the technology, how easy it is to build solution on top of ARK, if it's really so easy. We started actually before the deployer was released, so before the initial version of the deployer. So I still remember the issues that teams were having just by, let's say, launching a fork and start building custom transactions. So it was a really learning experience on both sides. So one side, like getting real user feedback from them, and on the other side, pushing that feedback, back into our products, improving documentation, improving stuff that was missing, because at the pace the crypto land is going, the documentation is always lagging behind. So the tests are probably, the source code with tests is probably the best way to read the documentation. So we both learned a lot and improved the page. So and I was really, let's say, happy to work with a team of students. They're working on the Park Anywhere project. And Jean, if you can jump on. So Jean was one of the team members, and he's now a developer and a contributor with our ARK team. So we are very happy to have him. So
hey guys, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Nice to finally get in touch with you after contributing to ARK for some time now. So me and Chris will present a Park Anywhere project, which we built at university as part of practical course too. We tried to use as much as modern tech as we could. We used Angular for the web app, and Kotlin for Android application. As Chris mentioned already, we had some troubles deploying at first, but when we got there, it became really easy to develop on top of ARK. So I'm really glad that Chris was our mentor. Yeah, that's all.
So thanks, Jan. I guess there'll be more questions. I just want to explain to the guys the goal. The goal they had like 4 or 5 weeks to build a fully working proof of concept, which you actually see now on the slides. And we actually defined the Park Anywhere solution as as a platform where, like, imagine like a set of custom transactions and administration part where any park provider could configure its own solution and use it. So essentially, if you have a parking space or parking house, you would just have to register and offer it. And on the other side, the drivers that need the parking slots, they would just pull out their mobile application, and the payments are done automatically. Unfortunately, at that time, we were just playing with the vendor field. So an improved version will be done probably as a part of the official ARK workshops, where there will be specific sub-transaction types, because it's completely decentralized and a generic solution that can just be adapted to anything related to token selling. And if you include some additional hardware gadgets like time trackers or Bluetooth beacons, it can automatically recognize your car and just issue a payment for the actual duration. So these are some of the screens where people can register. They can register their car, or on the first screen you can see how you can pay with with park tokens based on the durations, and the rest is just open source navigation and really nice graphical user interface. So by being a park provider, you could just use the API and build your own user interface for your customers. So it's really a lightweight, decentralized program. Yeah, I mean, do you have any questions? Just jump on.
Hey guys, yeah, I've got a couple. And first
ahead.
off, of course, I'm going to say that this is really, really cool. I mean, definitely as cool as the ARK Scooter project. And these types of visuals that I'm seeing here are great because it's interfaces that people are already familiar with, right? Using centralized apps, and they know the value that it can bring. So just doing stuff like this and then explaining it more and giving updates, it really helps to bridge the gap for normal people between like, what did blockchains even do, to, oh, okay, now I get it. So my question is this: with the app, is it like a P2P where if I'm a person who has a parking space, I can register the parking space as available on the app, and then somebody can claim it and then pay me directly through the app?
Good question. So you're more like a customer to customer question, like you would like to share your own parking space. That was not part of the initial scenario, but could actually easily be added. It was more meant on the business level, like a parking house provider sharing a bigger slot of spaces and then having administration of it. But if you register as a normal park house provider, yeah, it could be actually done. So
cool. All right, great. And then I guess finally, I would ask a question to Jan. When you were using ARK to do stuff, I recall that in Chris's story, you started off earlier in the year, and then of course you worked on it through summer. So is there anything that you've been pleasantly surprised by working with ARK that you kind of didn't realize how easy that particular thing was, or some other thing like that?
Yeah, I was surprised on how the team members helped me at the beginning with the deployment on Linux. I wasn't used to Linux environment, so the team members helped me. Also, once I got used to it, it was really easy to work with the ARK ecosystem technology stack. So yeah.
Well, that's great. That's fantastic, and I love to hear it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm kind of wondering, as Justin mentioned this, in the scooter project, is there a refund option that say you paid in advance for so many minutes of parking and then you get back early, so you want to release the space so that you can get issued a refund? The big problem now with parking meters and others is that there's a natural tendency to only try to put in what you're going to use, and then if you're late for some reason, you get a ticket, which of course the cities love. They even have laws some places prohibiting you from feeding someone else's meter when it's expired. But it would be a lot better for the user if we had this refund option if you've overpaid.
I mean, actually, it was planned to be like a pay-per-use. So you, with the new HTLC, you would like pre-log some kind of security amount, like related to max parking, which is on your wallet. And when you check out or leave, you actually pay for your time spent there, not a bulk amount, you know. So yeah, it's that was the idea, but it was quite a challenge because you had like 5 weeks, and you get a team who is who's actually starting to learn blockchain, and you throw them like all the stuff from peer-to-peer to consensus to not to mention the cryptography. So but it was a very nice learning experience on both sides, and we improved our documentation. Some of the feedback we learned went back to the deployer, especially some of the questions related to, let's say, GitHub and to the running modes, how many peers are required, and so on. So it's good to see from outside, you know, how somebody not familiar with your technology actually starts to build something. And it's always been one of my personal missions to make it as easy as possible. And we are just taking small steps in the right direction. So I'm looking forward to next year. So we want to continue, and we want to repeat the project. And with, I guess, look, if I see the timing now, if everything goes well, maybe we'll have 3.0, at least maybe on DevNet running. So we will definitely use the lessons learned, and it's also very good for testing, and just giving something new to people that are not familiar with it. You always see what's lacking.
Yeah, it's really a nice looking interface. Great job there. And like, yeah, the other suggestions, someone about the peer-to-peer parking panels too. They had that in San Jose. It's quite popular.
Yeah, cool. So they should switch to ARK sooner or later. Okay, guys. This was, yeah. Oh, we are already quite over an hour. Do we have any last questions, comments?
I have a question for Zan.
Mm-hmm.
Now that the Park Anywhere project is finished, and you've been subsequently working with ARK a little more, and you understand the ARK technology a lot better, if you could go back and work on this project again, would you add any additional functionality to it, or do you see it as almost complete now?
It's far from complete. There are some we still need to fix some bugs in it, and still about the functionalities, we could use some of the HDLC logic for it, which would be nice. Yeah, with me and Chris will do a webinar on Park Anywhere. So yeah, and also a custom transaction for registering park provider.
Oh, okay, yeah, that sounds really cool. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing more on that.
Yeah. So actually, part of the webinars that will be coming now that 2.6 is out is related to the learning experience we had. So actually, the participants will be following from, let's say, 0 to hero, like how to set up developer environment, how to do a basic distributed application on ARK, which is quite easy now with our modules, and then how to do a custom transaction. And the goal for them in the end would be to implement something like that. So we're gonna give them some basic graphical interfaces, and they will take it from there and use their own local test nets and their own APIs. So I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, so let's wrap it. Thank you all for being here, for presenting from tier 0 projects to AIPs to, let's say, to student collaboration, and see you in a month or so. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot.